The truth-seeking public inquiry known as the Madlanga Commission stands at a critical crossroads, having to confront pivotal questions about the balance between its public inquisitorial character and concern for the safety of witnesses and other role players. Members of the Commission, you will know, have visited the family of Marius Vlam van der Merwe, who was known as Witness D during his testimony, when he delivered his testimony before the Commission, and that happened a couple of weeks ago. Van der Merwe, you'll remember, was gunned down about a week ago, a few weeks after he had given evidence before the Commission, which evidence implicated senior officials and officers of the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department in serious crimes, including murder, cover-up of that murder, as well as hijacking, extortion, and theft of precious minerals. His killing has triggered a fair amount of debate after Justice Minister Mamoloko Kubayi called for a review of the Commission's protocols regarding the broadcasting of testimonies of witnesses, as well as decisions about which witnesses testify in camera or behind closed doors. In response to Witness D's killing, lobby group AfriForum has now escalated the matter, announcing that it is seeking a full investigation into the circumstances surrounding the death and is lodging a formal complaint with the Independent Police Investigative Directorate, IPID. So for more on this, I'm joined now by AfriForum spokesperson Barry Bateman, as well as media scholar and commentator, Deputy Chairperson of SANEF, Chamano Makadi. Good afternoon to the both of you. Barry, let me start with you. Just from your perspective as AfriForum, what lines of inquiry are you seeking to see being expedited? Because naturally, this killing is being investigated by the police, but do you believe that there are certain lines, specific lines of inquiry that should be pursued?
Good afternoon. Just to be clear, we're not requesting any particular line of investigation in relation to the murder of Mr. van der Merwe. We represent Mr. van der Merwe's victim, in fact, his family, Mr. Mbenze, and they have been waiting for 3 years for answers. On the day Mr. van der Merwe testified about the way he tortured and was related to the murder of Mr. Mbenze, and how Mr. van der Merwe himself dumped Mr. Mbenze's body in a dam, our clients heard for the first time all those facts and how they died, despite asking IPID for the last 3 years for answers. So that murder is already being investigated by IPID. It has been so for the last 3 years, and there's been no progress. We wrote to the head of IPID to ask them, first off, what is the current state of that investigation? Give us a meaningful update, considering you've been telling the family for the last 3 years that arrests are imminent. But secondly, we want to understand why they already had a 204 witness, which is Mr. van der Merwe, who did a pointing out of the crime scenes as early as 2023. That's on his own version. Why this matter hasn't been enrolled and people brought to account.
Yeah, in fact, that's an important point of clarity, Perry. So let me stick with you for a moment then. As Mr. Witness D, as many of us knew him at the time as Witness D, as he was testifying, there was, and naturally there was a family that was hearing all of these details and were able to sort of link it to their loved one and the circumstances around how that loved one's body was discovered. What has been the best explanation from IPID of why the delay? Have they offered any explanation as to why the delay in the investigation?
They've offered no explanation to us, that's a part of our letter. I can confirm that we have received a response from the acting head of IPID, and they have committed to responding to us before this coming Tuesday. So Monday, I mean, it's a long weekend basically, but we hope by Monday to at least have some kind of a response and see what they have to say.
All right, let me bring in Chamano Makadi on another aspect of the story. Chamano, the killing of Witness D naturally elevating and amplifying the conversation around the safety of witnesses who are not necessarily witnesses in the criminal procedure sense, where they would be taken to witness protection, but in the sense of public inquiries, whistleblowers, and the likes. In the wake of that, the Minister of Justice talking about a review of how these proceedings are brought to the public. From what you heard, what the minister was saying, what do you make of it? What does a review mean? And how does it balance the public's need to be informed and exposed to these inquisitorial processes as they unfold, and the safety of those witnesses on the other hand?
No, thank you so much, Tulas. I must say, yes, we've listened to the statements of the minister, but I must also just indicate that prior to the killing of witness D, already there have been issues there. And if one was to just give really quick background, at some point, witness D, whom we know as Mr. Van der Merwe, lived in East Rand. Whilst he was there, he had to move as a result of some deaths, threats on his life. He moved to the East Rand, issues that have to do with zamazamas. So by the time when he gave a statement to the Madlanga Commission, already there was something that was happening there. But I must also just say that the media in South Africa, as it would have been the case in the case of witness D, they have been very cautious in terms of how they put forward the information. And I think the name of witness D only came after his passing. So the sentiments by the minister, I don't think really it can be attributed to the live broadcast that we have seen, which in this case it's purported to have contributed to his killing. I really don't see it that way, Tulas.
But you see, Chamano, if I stick with you for a moment, even though the name may not have been published by the media prior to his identity being exposed, the concern, as I've heard it, is that those who know of these events and were perhaps players in these events, even if their voice were to be masked somehow, voice masked, we don't see the person, but as they testify to the details in a public platform such as that one, people who were involved in and around those events are piecing together and are able to quickly tell that whose vantage point is this that is being advanced among the many players in that context. So that's what then raises that question of public interest, transparency, because at the end of the day, we are probing issues that are in the public interest, but balancing that with the safety aspects, even if the media itself is not the one that is compromising, their safety.
Yeah, now perhaps maybe just on that point, there has to be something that needs to be done, just in and I'm talking in general terms, specifically on with the point which you're raising. But I must, indicate that in the manner in which the minister put it, it was almost as if this happened as a result of the, broadcasts that we have seen with, all other witnesses, including witness D, which one would argue it differently.
All right, let me pause that element. Barry, listening to all of this and just the legacy of the late Marius Van der Merwe, just weigh in on how people have been grappling with it, right? Because immediately it has raised the issue of whistleblower protection. But I imagine, and from what I heard of what you said at the start of this interview, it suggests that it's more complex and nuanced than that, in that yes, he was a whistleblower, but at the same time, his own participation in these events also a factor in all of this, yeah?
Yeah, first off, Mr. Van der Merwe was not a whistleblower by any imagination of the definition. He was a Section 204 witness at best. He certainly could have been an accused in a matter and facing a charge at the very least of assault, grievous bodily harm, as well as defeating the ends of justice because he dumped somebody's dead body into a dam. So he's certainly not a whistleblower. But if I can just take a step back and on the question related to the media and protection of witnesses and that. First off, the commission, the Witness Protection Act is available to the commission to be able to utilize. So the mechanisms are there. They just need to be used. So the witnesses can be protected. Our issue, and we look at from the Mbenzes family, is that Mr. Van der Merwe, as a 204 witness, implicated not only himself, but other people related to this murder. So he was quite integral to that prosecution taking place. So that's why the delays is a problem for us and his subsequent murder. Because had the matter been enrolled when he did the pointing out, for example, in 2023, it would have initiated the process in terms of the Criminal Procedure Act, and the accused would have had to have applied for bail. And in terms, and you know well, Thulasizwe, in terms of the bail application, various factors are considered. Among those factors are whether or not there is the risk that any accused person would interfere in witnesses or in any way obstruct justice. And the courts would then have to assess all the available evidence. Mr. Van der Merwe would have had an opportunity to say, I fear for my life. This is why I fear for my life. And all the related, the court could make a decision, either imposing very strict conditions or just denying bail to the individuals. But, you know, on the legacy of Mr. Van der Merwe, it's an absolute tragedy that he has been murdered. And, you know, I offer utmost sympathies to his family. But we cannot escape that he is, in fact, or was, in fact, by his own version, Section 204 witness. He admitted to being involved in torturing a man, although he denies not being involved in the murder, but he dumped his body into a dam. And we represent that man's family, and we'd like to see justice. Yeah.
Lastly, Perry, just on the complexity of taking forward what he had already deposed by way of a statement in the IPID investigation, does it somewhat complicate the picture in terms of that statement and perhaps future arguments that say, well, you know, we have it as evidence that the defense cannot put to the test and just the amount of value that can be attached to it in circumstances where he can't be cross-examined?
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. I'm sure it can be brought to the court, but you're quite right. It'd have to be a different kind of test, and there'd have to be other circumstantial evidence to be able to assist the court in making such a decision. I don't think it's insurmountable, but we will make ourselves available to assist the police as far as we can. We have a great expertise in our office, but I think there are other witnesses. There are other people who were involved in this incident. I'm sure there are other possibilities for other 204 witnesses as well.
Chamano, just as a parting shot on your side, what would be your best guidance in terms of this whole talk of a review, knowing what's at stake and what the interests are of South Africans? Because fundamentally, at the heart of it, we're talking about issues that strike at the heart of the criminal justice system and its integrity. The allegations are gravely serious, and we all have a stake in it. But at the same time, there are these realities that some of these conversations involve pretty dangerous people.
No, absolutely, Thulas. And if you think about it, really, these are people who put their lives forward, obviously in the interest of justice, in the interest of all South Africans, really. When you think of the context of the Madlanga Commission, and people that are really going there to simply just give information. So there really has to be balance. Media, on the one hand, has to exercise, caution in making sure that those who come forward giving information, they don't find it difficult, or they sit back with information, obviously with fear of intimidation, and obviously the worst part with what we have just seen now with witness D having been killed. We live in a country where, Thulas, obviously there will be a lot, that people are going to say. But I really must say at this point, let's wait for the investigation. Let there be a proper investigation on what really led to, the death of witness D. And obviously, we really send our deepest condolences to the family, because what happened, it's absolutely terrible.
All right, let's leave it there for this afternoon. Chamano Makadi, who is, yes, Barry?
Just as a closing shot there, if you can grant me the indulgence till I see his way. In terms of the commission and witnesses, how they deal with them, I think it was Attorney Charles Duplessis who represented News 24 on that application. One of the agreements was with the commission that a blanket ban cannot work. You can't just blanket ban anybody or the whole commission from being behind closed doors. The agreement was that they would go on a witness-by-witness basis and assess it. I think that still would stand, and I think there might be more stringent controls there. But if another senior politician or somebody goes there, I think it would be unacceptable for them not to testify, but it should be a case-by-case assessment.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. And I appreciate you jumping in there, Barry. Barry Bateman, spokesperson of AfriForum. Of course, he is a man with a deep background in media and that interest in the media as well as Chamano Makadi, deputy chairperson of SANEF, but also media scholar and commentator.